Thank you for joining. We're just going to give this about a minute for people to hop on the call. We're so glad you can make it this morning. My name is Christina Carell. I'm PAVE's Educational Programs Director. Sorry, I just had a title change. And we're so glad to be partnering with Kinship Caregivers Connect to provide this educational event for grandparents, caregivers, and other adults related to youth vaping prevention, which is obviously so important and critical to so many families. So we hope we can give you a lot of great information and resources. I'm joined by Bruce Barcelow and Courtney Calvin, who are both in Ohio and volunteering on behalf of PAVE to give this presentation for you all. I have to say we're so grateful to them and other volunteers across the country who do this work, out of passion and drive. They both have a wealth of knowledge and experience from doing tobacco prevention and education in their professional lives as well. But we are so grateful to them for participating in this and representing PAVE. And also, I'm going to turn it over to begin with to Angela Provenzano, who is the founder and leads the support group at Kinship Caregivers Connect. I'll just say briefly, if you have a question, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. It has two little speech bubbles. It says Q&A. So you can either drop questions in there and I'll be monitoring. I can hand it off to our speakers, or if you drop something in the chat to the panelists, I can get it there. So feel free to drop in questions throughout. We may save them for the end, depending on how relevant they are to the current conversation. But yeah, thank you so much. And Angela, if you want to take it away.
Thank you. Yes, welcome everyone. I'm excited to see some caregivers who come to my support group, normally here, and like so many new faces as well. So I just wanted to take a little time to introduce Kinship Caregivers Connect for those who aren't familiar, and then I'll kind of hand it off to PAVE to do their thing. But it's really exciting to have this partnership, and I think there's a lot of different topics that come up in kinship care as kinship caregivers. And I think vaping and child health and safety is definitely one of them, and it can be hard to get information on a topic like this. So I can't say how excited I am to have you all here. So I'm just going to share my screen really quick. Is the host able to enable screen sharing?
Yep, no, 1 second. I'll make it. Oh, okay.
Perfect. Thank you. So we do have a website, which I'll throw in the chat, but we are a support group free to any kinship caregivers in Ohio. We are supported by Ohio Can, and I'm so glad to be partnered with them. But we do have meetings twice a week, so we do meet quite frequently. If you are a kinship caregiver and just looking to get peer support, extra support, I'll show you some of the flyers. So we have Tuesday meetings and Thursday meetings. And we have some meetings that are dedicated to learning about different topics like today, and then others where it says group check-in. It's just kind of casual, and you get to hear other kinship stories, kinship caregiver stories, and also maybe talk about your own. And we all provide advice to support to one another, which is really great. And then we also have a Thursday meeting schedule as well. So plenty of opportunities to get involved if you can't come every week and just want to pop in and see what we do. That's also awesome. We also do have a really neat resource page where I'll record the presentations and post the videos on our website. So even if you can't make a meeting, you can definitely check out what we have here. It's a little slow today, but I will send this in the chat. And we also have an email list, which would be the best way to stay in contact with us. So if you're interested in learning more, you can go to our website and fill out a form there, or just send me a message in the chat. We'd be happy to have you. But it's been such a joy and honor to get to know kinship caregivers around the state. My own family is a kinship family. I'm definitely not a caregiver, but I have so much respect for all that you do. And I've just loved seeing you all come together to support one another. So thank you so much for being here. And I think I'm going to hand it off to PAVE again. It's Courtney and Bruce. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Angela. And I'm going to start us off. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. For this important hour, we're going to move at a really quick pace because we have so much. Courtney and I just, again, are honored to be with you today. We're going to cover a lot of different things. We're going to talk a little bit about what PAVE is. We're going to talk about this youth vaping epidemic, as well as big tobacco, big vape, why teens vape, and the harms that vaping causes. And then what caregivers can do with this vape epidemic. When we start talking about how PAVE came into being, the catalyst for it came about in 2018 when a Juul representative had gone to the school of the moms of the kids of these kids' school, and when they were in 9th grade, under the guise of a health presentation. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to turn my video off. Under the guise of a health presentation, and with no adults in the classroom. The students were told that though it was for adults, that Juuls were totally safe and that it would soon be approved by the FDA. Both were totally false. And the kids came home and told their moms about that. And the moms were upset. And what I like is when they say they mess with the wrong moms. And they totally mess with the wrong moms. This is pictured is Meredith Berkman, and behind her Dorian Furman, as they gave testimony about that experience, and their sons did as well. And that was the birth of PAVE, born on the back of the lies of Juul coming to a school. Next. And from that beginning there was advocacy, not only then on the local level, but state and federal, as this grassroots volunteer nonprofit began, because the youth vaping epidemic continued to have real ramifications all across the country. Parents were concerned, and with that concern then, PAVE was joined other larger coalitions from public health advocates working on the national level on this youth epidemic. And you can see then PAVE was invited to the White House for a forum to discuss the issue in 2019. So when we start looking at the data and where we are with the epidemic, the data is a little unclear when we look at where we are right now. You can see in 2020, 3.6 million, or between 20 and 25% of high schoolers were current users. Then the FDA announced in 21 that the data was not a trend, because the data was taken when the kids were in the stay-at-home order, when the kids were at home because of COVID. And so what we certainly know is that when the kids returned to the classrooms this past fall, I heard, as I talked to superintendents and principals from all around the country, that youth were using at a much higher rate. What we also, though, do know is that disposable rates use just exploded. And you can see here, Puff Bar is the most popular disposable vape product in the country right now. Look at that number. 10 million disposables sold per month in US convenience stores. 10 million a month. in just convenience stores across the country. We know that schools are buying vape detectors to put in their bathrooms and locker rooms around the country because they're just grappling with how to deal with vaping in their schools, and that schools are school districts, state attorney generals are suing Juuls and other manufacturers of these vape products for the harms that it's created for them.
So looking ahead at Ohio youth vaping, as you can see here from data in high schools across the state from 2019, 22% have ever tried cigarettes, 5% are currently smoking, 48% recorded that they've ever vaped, and in Ohio with youth, 30% of our youth are currently vaping. So in the big picture, vaping remains a huge issue as students had to return to in-person learning, and we continue to wait for federal regulatory action. Next slide. And here on this slide, you see here a generation who would have otherwise not used nicotine. So this is surveying high schoolers. In 1991, 27.5% of students smoked cigarettes. In 2019, that declined tremendously to 5.8%, whereas e-cigarettes in 2013 was about 4.5%, and in 2019, that has increased tremendously to 27.5%. So as you see here, from cigarettes in 1991 to e-cigarettes in 2019, 27.5% of students are currently using here. Kids who vape are more likely to begin smoking within a couple of years. So we expect cigarette smoking levels to again increase as we see here, but we'll have to watch this in the next couple of years to see if the trend is going upward as well. Youth marketing. So your youth that you care for are often marketed by ads such as these that you see here on your screen. And with this, you see bright, colorful ads, you see beautiful people who can be models potentially, and you see DJs, you see athletes, music, all of the things that are.
Oh, I think your audio cut out, Courtney.
Yeah, I think I muted myself on accident.
Okay, there you go.
Sorry about that. So again, you see these beautiful ads with beautiful people who are used to try to entice or target our young people. And 90% of addiction occurs before the age of 21. If tobacco companies get our children hooked on tobacco, they are more likely to have our youth as lifelong customers, continuously purchasing the product. Big tobacco companies know this, and they are trying to use this tactic to replace current smokers who are dying of smoke-related illnesses. So our kids today will become tomorrow's customer and tomorrow's replacement. Next slide. Youth marketing and social media. So we see here some advertisements on Instagram. You see these maybe on Facebook, but these companies have gotten super, super smart and have done some email marketing directly with our youth. So as you see here, Puff Bar sent out an email in April of 2020 that says, and I'll quote, "We know that the inside vibes have been quite a challenge, speaking of COVID and being home. Stay sane with Puff Bar this solo break. We know you'll love it. It's the perfect escape from the back-to-back Zoom calls, parental texts, and work from home stress." So they picked this up and realized, hey, students, get escape from your parents, escape from the Zoom calls and this work from home stress of this, while we are looking for you to participate in this escape by purchasing and using our vape products. So they've had several launch parties. They have kids posting themselves on social media. And in terms of the tobacco marketing, then and now, it's the same playbook. So nothing has really changed with this tobacco market. As you see here on the left, there is an older ad, and then the right, we see Marlboro, but now we've gone to advertising the electronic cigarettes, same model, same handsome, beautiful people as before. So nothing has really changed. These companies are really aggressive with their tobacco marketing. Point of sale. So you as parents and caregivers may have seen things in your local stores, whereas marketing has gotten huge at the point of sale. So they target at the windows, the cash registers, everything is eye level in convenience stores and smoke shops. A lot of tobacco retailers, specifically in Ohio, are located near schools where students are going into to purchase snacks, maybe before and after school. There is a higher density near schools with low incomes and those where people of color live and work. So we really just want to point that out, as you'll see, maybe going into your local store, these marketing tactics as well. Regulatory tobacco industry. So you'll see that there is, companies have really gotten aggressive with specific populations that they are targeting for tobacco use. So that includes the LGBTQ+ community, military vets, low income neighborhoods, rural populations, racial and ethnic minorities, Native Americans, as well as people with mental illness. They've done tactics such as coupons for these demographics. They've done giveaways, anything that says that these products are healthier and better for you. They're going into these neighborhoods where these people live to try to get them to indulge in tobacco and vape products. And now we hit a industry that are targeted like no other with menthol, and that's African Americans. So 85% of African Americans currently use menthol, and menthol is it makes smoking and vaping smoother and easier for them. It numbs the throat, gives a cooling sensation, and it's less harsh to inhale, meaning you can take deeper draws. But it is still highly addictive and leads to a faster addiction. There is a really, really cool documentary that I encourage everyone on this call to watch called Black Lives, Black Lungs. I myself have watched it and I've learned so much from this documentary. It's really detailing about how big tobacco companies have purposely gone into lower income African-American neighborhoods in persuasion of trying to encourage and give away tobacco products to African-Americans. So if you were someone, you know, just 15 minutes of your time just to watch this documentary, which will blow your mind. So I encourage everyone to take a look at that.
So why are these products still available to the kids? Well, really, the FDA has to take some responsibility because they failed to take action when they could have. We could go into the timeline, but the fact is that they could have and should have taken action on e-cigarettes. In 16, there was an opportunity even before that, but because they haven't taken responsibility and had that action, these products have remained and had said the things, harmless water vapor, all that type of rhetoric, and remain on the market. And so there, when they did take action, and I remember where I was. I was in Bismarck, North Dakota, talking to superintendents, and the governor spoke just before I did, and he said, "I've got great news. The president is going to take care of all your vaping problems." And I knew what he was going to announce, that he was going to restrict all flavored pods. Well, the flavored pods did nothing to do, it left all disposables on the markets, e-liquids and all that. So all these things remained on the market. It not only left all, this is the main thing that left on the market that is a major problem. All of the disposables that are extremely popular, and the pod-based systems were on a decline already. The disposables were on a huge increase. And here are examples of some of the brands that are most popular with youth. The Puff Bar, the Air Bar is real popular as well. The Stig. So these are some of the brands that you can see that are really popular with high schools, middle schoolers, and elementary. I see them and talk to elementary teachers, and we see them even in the 3rd grade. I hate to say it, but it's a reality. Here are the pod-based systems like Juul, Views, and Sorin. Then there are the refillables that, like the Sorin Drop, that remains pretty popular. And then the e-liquids in tens of thousands of flavors. Excuse me. I was invited to an international e-cigarette conference, and one of the presenters was talking about flavors and that adults need flavors. And so I put in the chat, so you're telling me that flavors, adults need flavors like unicorn poop, and because that's one of the flavors, and I was blasted with unicorn poop was one of the original flavors, and adults need that's a highly sought after flavor with adults, and blah 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 blah, that adults use those flavors as well. So the bottom line is they're saying that adults need all those flavors as well. You can't tell me that adults, that those flavors aren't attracting youth and aren't made for youth to attract them to try these products. Of course they are. So, along with all those flavored products that are certainly attracting you to sample those products, there are other products that are buying for youth to use when it's not, when schools are doing everything that they can to make sure that kids aren't using those products during the school day. And when they're addicted to those products, there are multiple products then that are vying for their attention that they can use during the school day. Here are just a sampling of them. So there are everything from little pouches that are spitless. So you put the pouch between your cheek and your gum, and you don't have to spit, and you get that nicotine buzz. So the Zen pouch. Then there's gum, the Lucy gum. Then dissolvable mints. Lucy also has very small disposable mints. This young lady right in the middle with the sunglasses has the Lucy mints, very small, about the size of a Tic Tac. And if you put them in a Tic Tac container, you would hardly know one from the other. And then the Pixel teeth. which is a nicotine-infused toothpick. And so again, if you were chewing on a toothpick and a Pixotine, you would not know one from the other. So again, the idea is if you wanted to make sure that you were getting your nic fix during the school day, you could certainly use any of these or combination of any of these products and could do so and never be detected. Real concerning then are these supposedly health vapes and supposedly also non-nicotine vapes. But here's the concern. They contain other products such as propylene glycol, glycerol, and other essential oils. And are they safe? There needs to be a lot of other research. So here's the deal. Look at what some of them claim to be. You can purchase these different brands, and there are multiple different brands, all claiming different things. You can purchase them for energy or for sleep enhancers, melatonin. Again, under the guise of a diffuser. I had one mom saying that their daughter wanted to purchase a diffuser for their room. So they were thinking like a little pot in the room that would diffuse some essence. And no, it was one of these. And look at where you can purchase these things. Urban Outfitters, and if you're not aware, like many of us grandparents would not be aware, that's a popular outlet for youth. And so here's the concern. Like propylene glycol, there are some chemicals that's GRAS, generally recognized as safe for ingestion. That means you can add those chemicals and they're absolutely safe when we eat them. But we don't know for inhalation. Because you see, the lungs are a very sensitive organ. And so when we heat these things and break them into very small particulate matter, and we heat them and inhale them into our lungs, it's not safe. And the devices themselves are part of the devices are made of metal. And in time, they break down. And those metals then, when they break down, those are inhaled as well. And so they have claims of being safe, and the reality is nothing is safe when you heat it and inhale it into your lungs. So our kids believe they're safe, and they're simply not. Okay? Excuse me. So our kids continue to say, and I have 4 grandkids, 5 twins that are 10, and then a 14-year-old. And I've started really several years ago with the twins and our older one, having conversations because of this. It's safer than. And the reality, they continually hear that message, it's safer than. So this is a great slide to show that it is not. Simply because the e-cigarette has a much higher nicotine level. When they, there's a great book, Big Vape, and that talks about the story of the making of Juul. And as they made the Juul, as they were figuring out the chemistry, they were able to make a salt-based nicotine. And when they made it in salt-based nicotine, they were able to raise the nicotine level content so much higher than any former e-cigarette. And so in being able to raise the nicotine content, that was the game changer of all other e-cigarettes that came before it. Nothing compared to Juul, and then from Juul on, nothing compared to it. And so by being able to raise, and so they tweaked it, they continued to tweak it. And as they tweaked it, and they played with that chemistry, individuals were throwing up because of the high level nicotine content, and they kept getting it, where can we go? How high can we go? And they got it as high as they possibly could without getting people sick, so that when you would hit it, you get that high nicotine hit of nicotine without getting you sick. And you'll see later, that's one of the things that you really like about these products. So what's innovate? At first, they were slow to disclose how many chemicals. Upon analysis, we were able to see that many of the same chemicals are the same chemicals in a combustible cigarette. Not every chemical, but many of the same chemicals, and many of them when they are heated. The red ones are what the FDA found that are harmful and potentially harmful in e-cigarettes.
Thank you, Bruce. So he just gave a lot of information in terms of what vape is, products of vape, and I gave information about marketing tactics. And so now we're going to move on to how does vaping affect the body? And for me as a parent, I think this is the most important because I'm really learning about the harmful effects and what's to come with our young people who are vaping. So just real quick, as many of you may know, brain development does not stop until age 25. So it continues all through the adolescence, and around 25 is when that development kind of ceases. So in terms of the brain and how vaping affects it, it is highly susceptible to addiction. It causes permanent cognitive changes, worsens the memory, impulse control, which some of you may see or will see, unfortunately, with our young people. It also has mood disorders, can cause or worsen anxiety or depression. So on the flip side of that, some kids use nicotine because of undiagnosed mental issues such as anxiety or depression, and they are simply self-medicating. Kids report that nicotine helps them concentrate, and they will eventually have a harder time concentrating when they use vape because of how addicting this is. So how does vaping affect the lungs? So as Bruce mentioned, how the chemicals and how harmful they are, that is definitely going to affect the lungs as you go to inhale. Reaches very deep in the lungs, causing irritation and inflammation. Allergies are hidden as ingredients. It is known to increase and heighten asthma and chronic lung disease. So real quick here, students' lungs are at their strongest point. While many feel effects on their lung capacity while they are young, many of them may not feel the effects of this until they are older. because right now their lungs are still young, they can kind of bounce back, and that will diminish over time. So these products and vape are still too new, if you will put that in air quotes, to fully understand what's going to happen 10, 15, 20 years from now as the long-term effects. So we're still looking and reviewing that information as we get it on a daily, just to see how harmful it really is doing to the lungs. Next slide. The heart. So as we know, nicotine is a stimulant. It restricts blood flow, increases blood pressure, that heart rate goes up, increases cardiovascular disease, and those flavor chemicals that Bruce talked about are toxic, can't stress that enough, to the heart cells. So just wanted to put that out there as far as how vaping affects the heart. Additional risks: weakens the immune system, causes seizures from nicotine poisoning, gastro issues and weight loss, has a negative impact on the mouth, which affects the immune response and bladder disease. EVALI outbreak, which stands for e-cig, vaping associated lung injury. There are about 3,000 recorded cases and 70 deaths as of February 2020. Causes high fever, extreme difficulty in breathing, and drastic weight loss. This is linked to vitamin E and THC, and 14% of cases were due to nicotine alone. So while most of the EVALI cases reported appear to be from vaping THC, the vitamin E found in THC, some cases of EVALI reported were from people who vaped only nicotine e-cigarettes. So more needs to be discovered, but it's important to know that not all of this has occurred from vaping THC. Next slide. And so we're still in this pandemic and how vaping has affected COVID, how those kind of have intertwined. Youth vape more likely to get COVID and have more severe symptoms. Vaping damages the lungs and immune system, making it harder to fight this disease off. Smoking and vaping has increased the spread of COVID-19 through increased hand, the mouth contact, and cough. So youth, as now they are back in school, and even when they were home, they were sharing vapes. And so that has caused an increase in vaping and COVID-19. Also, expert at Massachusetts General Hospital now say that people who smoke or vape who catch COVID-19 are twice as likely to develop severe cases, ending up in the ICU, on a ventilator, and possibly dying from this illness. This is clearly concerning and sobering for us as adults and caregivers. And experts suggest that now could be a great time for kids to quit vaping. Menthol and other flavorings in tobacco, including e-cigarettes, make lung infections worse as COVID-19 hits.
So why are you vaping? I like using the old adage, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. It's the marketing. I mean, they were marketing to our kids before we even realized that they were marketing to our kids. It's the flavors, the huge amount of flavors, and then it's the high nicotine content that gets them hooked. And then here's some other things. It's affordability, the accessibility that is out there for all of our kids. And then I think that the 37% is real important of menthol. And so what is menthol? Menthol is mint. So why is that important? I love the fact that Dr. Phil Gardner, one of the foremost experts on menthol, tells it like it is and says menthol makes the poison go down smooth. And so because mint is a banned flavor, what you'll see in all these different products, like here's one of the products on the market. It's called Hyde Cola Ice. When you hear ice, that means mint, mint. And so again, it just cools, and that coolness makes it go down smoother, opens up the bronchioles, so you tend to inhale deeper, just like Courtney was saying. So excuse me. So the social norms. We hear all the time that kids, good kids, that would never touch a vape are being offered these products every day when they walk into the school building. Their friends are using. And so they're being offered these products all the time. So the social pressure is there. It's a very real thing. And it's a constant as they enter the school daily. The heightened stress, we know that with COVID, our kids are under a greater, that anxiety, depression is at an all-time high with our youth today. And then with that, with an increased reality of depression and anxiety, some kids turn to self-medication. Also, and with the pressure that kids are feeling, both with conditions that the world is in, and as I'm in different buildings and talk to students, they're feeling all kinds of different pressure. And the climate that we see ourselves in the world. Also, athletes. I talk to coaches. Athletes are vaping at a really high rate. So the performance anxiety is there as well. So dealing with pressure, kids self-medicate. The head rush, like I talked about. So kids that have never used before hit one of these products and they get that massive head rush. And there's the extreme how addictive they are. So I showed you this, the high, real quick. Let me tell you one more thing about this. So a cigarette has about 10 puffs to it, right? 10 puffs to a cigarette. This has 5,000 puffs to it. 5,000. So do the math. That's the equivalent of 500 cigarettes. So I've helped hundreds of adults quit smoking. I can probably count on one hand the number of adults who have had to wake up at night to smoke a cigarette at night because of the nicotine addictiveness of cigarettes. I can't tell you the number of teens who sleep with their device underneath their pillow and take a hit at night. That's because of two things. That's because of how easy it is. It's not as easy to wake up at night and light up a cigarette and start smoking a cigarette and then put it back out. It's real easy to pull your little device out and hit it at night and put it back underneath your pillow. But it's also because how the high nicotine content in these products and how easy it is. That's really frightening. We've not seen anything like these new products. And then the perceived lower risk of these products. So most of these products are stealth by design. So you need to be very careful and you need to know what they look like. Look at these different devices and see if you can pick out which ones are e-cigarettes, are vape things. Take a look. See if you can pick out which ones are e-cigarettes. Oh, there they are. Did you get them? Did you pick them out? So again, some look like highlighters, like flash drives. I don't know if you can see this real well. This one, it just looks like a little round disc. It's called a UFO. And my backpack. This backpack is a vaping device. You just hit there and the vape device is hidden in there. So more and more of these things. All right. So let's look. And there's so many of these different things. Stealth by design. It's not that adults need these devices. It's by design. So signs that teens could be vaping. The secretive attitude, closed doors, frequent excuses to use the restroom or go outside. Now, excuse me, be careful, because teens are teens, right? I mean, let's be honest. Teens are quirky, most of them. And so that's fine. That's fine. They need their alone time. So just because a teen needs their alone time, that does not mean that they're vaping. But it's an excessive amount or out of the norm for them. Out of the norm for them, right? So be aware if it's out of the norm for them. A sweet smell. All of a sudden, they start burning candles in their room, air fresheners to disguise a smell. I think this is important. They start having that dry mucous membrane. That's because of the propylene glycol. So you may see them start drinking more, craving more Solar Spice, start having some nosebleeds or mouth sores. That could be a telltale. Unusual items. You start seeing little colorful caps, USB drives, small highlighters or pens, devices that you don't recognize. Look for things like that. Changes in sleep patterns. Watch for that. A raspy cough, more lung infections, chest pain, shortness in breath, pneumonia. Heightened caffeine sensitivity, jitteriness, anxiety, irritability, mood swings, anger. Again, uncommon for teenagers? No. Out of the norm for them, for the teen in your life? Be aware. Changes in eating habits, nausea, gastrointestinal issues, weight loss. That's called sick. That high nicotine content. Courtney talked about seizures. I talked to a superintendent in Georgia this week. They've had several students that have had nicotine seizures not to alarm you, but because of the high nicotine content, this is not that terribly out of the norm. Courtney also talked about expenditures. So look for unknown increased spending or deliveries. There's a TikTok out there where this vendor put the puff bar inside of a flamingo slipper. And so you buy the flamingo slippers from her and you get the puff bar. So, you know, that type of thing. Be leery of that. So, in talking to our kids, come from a place of understanding and support. Can't stress that enough. If you come at it as, no, 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 you can't do this, you're not going to get anywhere. So, understanding and support. Remember that they were targeted. And more than likely, they're seeing this as normal behavior because they are seeing it all around them. Do your homework. You're on this webinar today to gain information. That's good on you. Continue your learning so that you know what you're talking about. That's great. Start early. I mean, if you can, if they're still in elementary, that's great to start those conversations. Like I said, I started with the twins. Actually, they're in 4th grade. I started last year when they were in the 3rd grade. Use situations that you see. When you see individuals vaping, to have a conversation on TV, on the street, use those situations to have conversations. And there's no one wants, and I'll pick on my parents. They were big on the talk. We need to have the talk. Oh my gosh, no one wants to have the talk. No, 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 no. Because this is not a one and done. This is little conversation. And it's not a yes or no. It's open-ended questions. Have you seen? Ask, what do you see at school? Open-ended questions type things. And stay calm. Build trust around this. No judgment. If they disclose that, yeah, they've tried it, don't act like your hair's on fire. No judgment. Be calm and have an open conversation about what's going on. Oh, yeah, okay. No single pro. Talk with, not at your kids. No lectures, like I said. But be clear about your disapproval. That it's not harmless water vapor. But do avoid scare tactics and exaggerations. I've been to too many presentations where they talk about vapes exploding and knocking teeth out. And so if you do it, it's stop with that. You know, there, but also, you know, especially if your kid, if whom the youth in your life if they are saying it's absolutely safe, feel free to say, well, where do you get that information from? And have them show you your sources, because I do that all the time. And sit down and have them show you where they're getting that information. Because I've had kids show me things like drvape.com or whatever it is like that. And it's just junk. It's from a vaping warehouse that's posted stuff. And we have conversations on what's a reliable source and what's not. And that's a great conversation of what's a reliable source and what's not. And so that's how you build trust. And that's how you have those real conversations.
So what else can you do? To piggyback on what Bruce said about do your homework as an adult, a caregiver, a friend, a grandparent, I think that is critical, and just having those conversations from a place of honesty. The vape world is forever changing. It changes pretty much almost daily, I think. So it's very important to try to learn as much as you can as you go to talk to your children, because more than likely they're going to learn a little bit more than you. But it is helpful for you as an adult to learn and do research as well. And so talking and listening, being an advocate, you cannot talk and listen at the same time, as we all know that. So listen to your children. That one-on-one time is so important in the car, just having those conversations with them. Also too, modeling the behavior. So if you're talking to your young child about smoking or vaping, yet you're puffing away, it doesn't balance. So just want to make sure that is reiterated. Encourage conversations with other trusted adults. I know with me, I have a 12-year-old son, and the birds and bees talk is going to be coming soon. And I may not give the same advice that an aunt or an uncle or a sister or grandparent would. So trust that there are other adults in their lives that you would want them to go to have this discussion with. Talk to your family pediatrician or local addiction specialist. Use quit resources. And next, go easy on yourself and your family. Kids, as you saw, are targets. They are tomorrow's customer. These companies are spending billions of dollars targeting your children, targeting your grandchildren, and any child in your family. So it is not your fault. It is not their fault. But just go easy on them. Have just a general, honest conversation with your young people in your lives. So remember that. Next slide. You can also use PAVE. PAVE is a wonderful resource. Their information is up here. We'll put it up again and it'll be on the slides. Use that as a resource. I cannot encourage you guys enough to use that. It's a free resource. They have a wealth of knowledge on their website. So definitely check that out. Your pediatrician is going to be a great resource as well. Tobacco specialist. Many pediatricians can prescribe NRT, which is nicotine replacement therapy, that is geared to help. It's a medication to help. Counseling, supporting those habits, trying to get those habits to change. Relapse is normal. Smoking is going to be there. It's so hard to quit. It is an addiction. So realize that, maybe cut back starting with those conversations, but realize that most people take multiple attempts to quit. It doesn't happen overnight. So keep that in mind with your young people. As you see on the slides here, ladies and gentlemen, there are some websites to check out. There's an app that can help. And then next, Bruce is going to talk about, close us out with some resources that you can use.
So yeah, in the state of Ohio, we're really fortunate. My Life, My Quit from the Ohio Department of Health is a great youth cessation program. So just remember that, My Life, My Quit, youth cessation, wonderful help. Then look in your own community, but here in Montgomery County, The Become an X is a great resource and actually has help for caregivers of youth that are addicted to smoking or vaping. So that is a great resource for you. Next. And then in Franklin County, you're invited to join the Vaping Task Force. And you'll see that the next meeting is May 9th. And the contact is Elizabeth, and her phone number, as well as the email. So please take advantage of that if you are in Franklin County. Then we want to make you aware of, so you may want to know, well, what can our school do? How could we direct our school to do something? There's two best evidence-based programs, and just to make mention of those, the Stanford Toolkit is evidence-based, as well as the Catch My Breath program. And there's more information on both of those programs on the PAVE website. But those are both great resources. And speaking of a great resource, is many youth are really in tune with the environmental issues, and the vape trash is a huge environmental issue. So PAVE has a youth campaign, Vapes Are Trash. Christina, you want to talk about that?
I just have to hop in because I'm another hat I wear at PAVE is I'm the director of the Vapes Are Trash campaign, and I do a lot of collecting vape waste in my own neighborhood. We just did a live event, so they're in this jar. But Bruce, the specific vape that you just held up, my eyes lit up because I keep finding Hyde vapes lately in my neighborhood, and I have the exact red one, except, you know, run over by a car, smashed, permanently lit up. Can't get it to turn off. Hopefully it doesn't, you know, catch on fire in my hands on one of these webinars. But just to say, you know, these are everywhere. If you start looking out for them, I see them every time we walk our dog. And this campaign is about not only trash and post-consumer waste, but all of the human and environmental impacts of e-cigarettes in the tobacco industry, you know, getting kids to think about what happens before a vape is in their hand and afterwards, because there's so much exploitation and labor that goes into these products and the waste as well. So anyway, I just had to show you because I have the exact same vape that you just held up.
That's great. Then we really, we're a small organization powered by volunteers. Use this QR code to sign up and volunteer with us. Give us your feedback on this presentation. So open your camera on your phone, point it at the QR code, and the notification will appear on the at the top to connect you to the survey.
Thank you. And I can also send the link to that survey in a follow-up email with the recording.
Oh, great. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And then last but not least, here's how to get more information and keep in contact with PAVE. And of course, we'd love for you to donate. Most of the individuals involved with PAVE are unpaid volunteers, and we welcome any and all donations. You can donate online. Thank you so much for listening, and we're happy to take any questions.
There are a couple questions, Bruce, that I thought would be good for discussion in the chat, Bruce and Courtney. One is that someone said some cessation resources, they point out, and programs are only available to people 18 and older. So are there pediatric cessation resources available? Some states have quit lines open to younger people. And I know we mentioned NRT, you know, nicotine replacement therapy on one of our slides, and that really is dependent on a conversation with your doctor. There's no on label, they have to go off label to prescribe that sort of thing, because nicotine really is not safe for kids at any level. But did you want to add anything about quit resources for young people?
You're exactly right. Many pediatricians will go off label, and it depends on the level of addiction that the adolescent has, as to whether they will prescribe or not. And so many will do behavioral counseling and without writing the prescription, but some will certainly prescribe.
I know here there was a physician at our local Cincinnati Children's Hospital. She does prescribe NRT, but she had never heard of My Life, My Quit, which I found kind of, ironic. So I did meet with her personally, gave her all the tools in hopes that she does pass that on to other physicians, because it is an amazing youth-centered based program that is super helpful to teenagers all across the state. And so they can get text messages, they can get messages sent daily, encouraging them. But I do find it interesting that she had never heard of it and prescribes nicotine replacement. So it's an amazing program.
Right. And the other question I also want to throw up, because I think we might have skipped over it, but PAVE has a private support group on Facebook. It says it's a parent support group. Any caregivers are certainly welcome to join. It's called Parent Support Group, Parents Against Vaping E-Cigarettes, PAVE. So you can search. There are some questions you have to answer to join, like related to just following rules in the group and caring for a child who is addicted. So, but please feel free to find us there. There's another question in the Q&A. If children are purchasing these products online through social media or other places, how could a flavor ban help curb usage in our city or state? Does anyone want to take that?
Yeah. So initially there was a ban on e-commerce of sending any of these products, and it was working very well. But then with synthetic products, that opened that door wide open again. So hopefully, when the FDA rules on synthetic products, that will slow that again. So locally, what we're seeing is most students are able to find someone to purchase locally. And so it's a daunting task, to be truthful, unless there is like here locally in Ohio, we don't there's not a ban on flavors, and so kids can find someone to purchase. Yeah. And so we would need to see a flavor ban in the state before we see a real impact.
Okay. And I mean, I think there's complexity there, right? Like no local jurisdiction or state is an island, and no new law is perfectly, a silver bullet. Enforcement becomes an issue. There's a lot that goes into actually making these impactful in the long run, which is why ideally we don't want them to just be on a local level, but to cover the whole country. But yeah, I think those are great points, Bruce. Courtney, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
I agree. I think it's going to take just more than one state. Again, as you said, Christina, that whole island thing, they're shipping it in the mail. And I think it really has to be, statewide, all 52 of them, getting in there and realizing that this is something that is harming our youth, harming our adults, and we really have to work together to combat this. And speaking of flavor bans, I just read an article today that San Diego announced a flavor ban. So they just passed it 7-2, and their ban is including menthol. So they realized, and that is just right before I got on this call, I got an email about that. I'm super excited that other places are recognizing that it's those flavors that are enticing, getting our youth to indulge. So we really have to start there. And as you said, enforcement can be huge. We have a program in Ohio where they can't purchase until 21, but that enforcement, you know, we're finding tobacco retailers who do sell to minors, but it's a lot of work behind the scenes to do that. It's a lot of work. But, you know, we're up for the battle. It'll happen. It'll happen.
Absolutely. I have to plug before we jump off. PAVE has now annually, this is our second one ever, but it's our second annual totally free virtual conference. It's happening in May over 2 days on the 24th and the 25th. We really strive to make all of our information super accessible. We have really high level speakers and we go really deep on a large variety of topics related to youth vaping. But we have parent and volunteer moderators. It's almost the whole thing is treated as moderated discussion. So we make it very, like I said, accessible to a wide audience. We get parents, teachers, clinicians, you know, public health people to join. And I encourage everybody to sign up if you want to learn more. If you go to our website, parentsagainstVaping.org, you'll see announcements about it. It's parentsagainstVaping.org/conference, but just by going to our homepage, you can easily find it. So please register and join us next month there as well.
Thank you guys so much for being here. This was so great. I love this partnership. I definitely hope we can do it again. I know I've learned so much, even as a 25-year-old, about vaping. And we definitely hope that people sign up for the conference, stay in touch. And I think one of the questions in the chat was if they could get access to this presentation. So it seems like it will be sent out to everyone who is registered. I'll also send out the recording to everyone on my support group email list and post it on our website too. But I just want to thank you guys so much for your time, your knowledge, your passion on a topic that is like super important. And it definitely seems like you're making a difference in all the spheres that you're in.
Thank you to you as well. It's great to, you know, connect with your audience and to be able to work with Kinship Caregivers. And thank you, Bruce and Courtney, again for a great presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Have a
good
great
rest
week,
of your day.
everyone. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.